I am 101 years old, and I have lived alone for a very long time. Long enough that being alone no longer feels like something that happened to me. It feels like something I chose. When people hear that, they often look at me with concern. They soften their voices. They ask if I'm lonely. I understand why they ask. The world treats living alone like a problem that needs solving. But I want to tell you something gently, and I want you to really hear it. Living alone does not automatically mean living lonely. Loneliness is not about how many people are in your house. It is about how connected you feel to your own life. I've known people who lived with families and felt invisible, and I've known people who lived quietly on their own and felt deeply content. I am one of those people. I've outlived my parents, my siblings, my husband, many friends. There are empty spaces in my life, yes, but emptiness is not the same as loneliness. Loneliness feels sharp. Emptiness feels spacious. That distinction took me decades to understand. So when I say, top 7 ways to live alone without feeling lonely, I'm not offering tricks. I'm sharing what a century of living has slowly taught me. The first thing is this, and it matters more than anything else. You must stop confusing being alone with being unwanted. Those are very different things. Being alone is a situation. Feeling unwanted is a belief, and beliefs can be changed. When I was younger, I thought something was wrong with me because I enjoyed quiet. I thought needing less company meant I was missing something other people had. I wasn't missing anything. I was simply wired differently. Some people bloom in crowds, others bloom in calm. Neither is better. But loneliness often begins when you judge yourself for who you are instead of accepting it. If you live alone and constantly tell yourself, "I shouldn't be like this," your own mind becomes an unkind place to live. Living alone becomes peaceful when you stop arguing with your nature. The second thing that changed everything for me was learning how to shape my days. When you live with others, the day carries you along. Meals happen, conversations happen. Noise fills the spaces without effort. When you live alone, time can stretch, and if you don't give it shape, it can start to feel empty instead of open. I wake up at nearly the same time every morning, not because I have to, because it steadies me. I sit by the window with my tea. I don't rush it. I let the morning arrive before I do. That simple ritual tells my body, you are still part of the day. You belong here. Loneliness grows when days blur together. Routine gives your life edges. It gives your time meaning. And it doesn't have to be complicated. One anchor in the morning, one in the evening. That's enough. The third thing I learned is that living alone requires something to care for. Not something impressive, something alive. For some years, it was my garden. Later, it was a small dog. Now, it is my plants and the birds that visit my window. Caring creates connection. It pulls your attention outward instead of letting it collapse inward. When you live alone, it's easy to spend too much time in your own thoughts. Thoughts are not bad. but too many of them, unchecked, can turn heavy. Having something that depends on you keeps you grounded in the present. You notice weather. You notice seasons. You notice change. Loneliness shrinks when you remember you are still part of a living world. The fourth thing took me a long time to learn, and I wish someone had told me sooner. You do not need many people. You need the right ones. When you live alone, your energy is precious. Spend it carefully. I once felt guilty for having a small circle. I thought it meant I wasn't trying hard enough. But I eventually realized that one honest conversation nourishes you more than 10 polite ones. I have a few people who truly know me. We don't speak every day. We don't need to. Loneliness isn't cured by constant interaction. It's cured by meaningful connection, and that can be rare. The fifth thing is learning how to be kind to yourself when the quiet feels heavy, because sometimes it will. There are evenings when the house feels too still, moments when memories visit uninvited. This does not mean you are failing at living alone. It means you are human. Instead of panicking in those moments, I learned to meet them gently. I put on music. I read. I talk out loud sometimes. Silence does not have to be empty. It can be soft, but only if you stop treating it like an enemy. The sixth thing is understanding that loneliness often comes from comparison. When you look at other people's lives and assume they are fuller than yours, you create a story that may not be true. I have lived long enough to know this. Every life carries its own quiet aches. Busyness hides loneliness just as easily as solitude can. Peace comes when you stop measuring your life against someone else's rhythm. And the seventh thing, the final one, is something I'm still learning, even at 101. You must learn to enjoy your own company. Not tolerate it, enjoy it. Because when you live alone, you spend more time with yourself than with anyone else. And if you treat yourself like a stranger or a problem to fix, loneliness will follow you everywhere. But when you become someone you are comfortable sitting with, even in silence, something shifts. Living alone stops feeling like absence. It starts to feel like space. And space can be very nourishing if you know how to step into it. That understanding didn't come all at once for me. It came slowly, through loss, through quiet mornings, through evenings that taught me patience. And there is one part of this that most people don't talk about, something that truly separates loneliness from contentment when you live alone. But I need to explain it carefully because it took me nearly a lifetime to understand, and it begins with how you relate to yourself when no one else is watching. Because the way you treat yourself in private becomes the foundation of how alone feels to you. When no one is watching, no one is judging, and no one is expecting anything from you, who are you to yourself? For many years, I was not very kind to myself in those moments. I filled the quiet with criticism. I replayed old mistakes. I wondered if I had lived correctly. That kind of thinking makes solitude feel like a punishment instead of a gift. It wasn't other people I was missing. It was gentleness. Living alone taught me something important. Companionship does not only come from outside. It also comes from how you speak to yourself, how patiently you move through your own thoughts, how forgiving you are when your energy is low. Once I learned to be a softer presence in my own life, the loneliness eased. Another thing I want you to understand is this. It is normal to miss people and still not be lonely. Missing is love stretching across time. Loneliness is feeling disconnected from life itself. Those are not the same. I miss my husband every day. I always will. But I do not feel alone in the world. He shaped me. He lives in my memories. Love does not disappear just because someone does. There are evenings when I sit quietly and think of the past, and I let those memories come without fighting them. I don't rush to fill the space. I let it breathe. When you stop resisting quiet, it stops hurting you. Loneliness also loses its power when you give your days small purposes. Not big goals, small ones. A letter to write, a meal to prepare carefully, a walk to take slowly. Purpose does not have to be impressive to be real. One of the mistakes people make is waiting for others to give their day meaning. When you live alone, you must learn to offer that meaning to yourself. That is not selfish, it is necessary. I also learned that reaching out does not have to be constant to be meaningful. One phone call, one message, one shared laugh. That can be enough to remind you that you are part of something larger than yourself. Connection does not need to be loud to be real. As I grew older, I stopped apologizing for my preferences. I stopped explaining why I liked quiet evenings and early mornings. I stopped pretending I needed more stimulation than I actually did. Loneliness often comes from denying who you are in order to fit an image of who you think you should be. There is a deep peace in allowing yourself to be exactly as you are. If you live alone and feel lonely, ask yourself gently, am I truly lacking connection, or am I resisting my own nature? Sometimes what we call loneliness is simply discomfort with stillness. Stillness feels unfamiliar in a world that rewards noise. But stillness is where you hear yourself think clearly. It is where you notice your breath, your body, your life as it is right now. That awareness can feel uncomfortable at first. Stay with it. It softens. At 101, I can tell you that the people who age with the most peace are not the ones who were constantly surrounded. They are the ones who learned how to be at home within themselves. They learned how to sit alone without feeling empty. Living alone has given me something precious, the ability to know myself deeply, to move at my own pace, to listen to my own needs. That knowledge is a kind of companionship that never leaves. You are not failing because you live alone. You are not broken because you enjoy solitude. And you are not destined to be lonely just because your house is quiet. Loneliness is not cured by filling space with people. It is cured by filling space with presence. If you learn how to do that, living alone can become one of the most peaceful chapters of your life. And if there is one thing I want you to remember from me, from a woman who has lived a long, full century, it is this. Being alone is not something to fear. It is something to understand, and when you understand it, it can become a place where you finally feel at home.